Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Test Those Breasts podcast. I am your host, Jamie Vaughn. I'm a retired teacher of 20 years and a breast cancer thriver turned staunch, unapologetic, loud supporter and advocate for others, bringing education and awareness through a myriad of medical experts, therapists, caregivers, and other survivors. A breast cancer diagnosis is incredibly overwhelming with the mounds of information out there, especially on Dr. Google. I get it. I'm not a doctor, and I know how important it is to uncover accurate information, which is my ongoing mission through my nonprofit. The podcast includes personal stories and opinions from breast cancer survivors and professional physicians, providing the most up-to-date information at the time of recording. Evidence, research, and practices are always changing, so please check the date of the recording and always refer to your medical professionals for the most up-to-date information. I hope you find this podcast a source of inspiration and support from my guests. Their contact information is in the show notes, so please feel free to reach out to them. We have an enormous breast cancer community ready to support you in so many ways. Now let's listen to the next episode of Test Those Breasts. Well, welcome back, friends, to this episode of Test Those Breasts. I am your host, Jamie Vaughn, and today I am extra excited to have two amazing ladies on my show. I actually got to meet them in person in San Antonio, Texas, in December at the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium, although I had been following Leslie, which I will introduce you to in just a moment. I had been following her for quite some time, so I knew who she was. So when I saw her in person, I'm like, oh my God, it's in person, a star. So I'm really excited about that. It was really fun to meet both of these ladies. So Leslie Ferris Yerger is a TEDx speaker, author of Probably Benign, and a women's advocate with a laser focus mission. Leslie was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer in November of 2017 after an all-clear mammogram and ultrasound, experiencing firsthand the failings of our current breast cancer screening standards. As founder and CEO of the nonprofit My Density Matters, Leslie is determined to empower women to find out their breast density, learn their options, and advocate for themselves to get the additional breast cancer screening they need so that her story doesn't become their story. Leslie lives in Hawthorne Woods, Illinois, with her husband, John. She has 3 grown children, Evan, Julia, and Megan. My next guest is Susan LaPlay Miller, and she is a strategic partnerships leader, author, and speaker with 30 years of experience across healthcare, technology, and the nonprofit sector. As a founder of Pieces of I, she helps organizations turn values into action, sparking collaboration, innovation, and lasting impact. As the vice president of partnerships and programs at My Density Matters, she is a catalyst in women's health, establishing programs and global partnerships with businesses, medical communities, and nonprofits to empower the patient journey for better health and outcomes. Well, hello. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tongue twister there. I am a human, so here we are. I have Leslie and Susan on my show. How are you, ladies? We'll start with you, Leslie, first. How are you doing? It's really nice to see you.
Very good today. Thank you so much for having us on. Really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
So that we can share what we do with your world.
Wonderful. I love that. Susan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. It was so nice to meet you in San Antonio, and I'm so glad we got to get this scheduled so quickly.
Yeah, I thought it was really fun because we met in the right outside the Advocate Lounge, and I remember when I first saw Leslie, it's like, oh my God, My Density Matters. I know that organization, and I've seen Leslie. So, and then I got to know you, Susan, and I feel like we saw each other here and there throughout the whole entire symposium, and I just feel like we just really resonated with each other. You guys had a booth there, and you have some really important things going on, and we're going to get to that in a little bit. I would like to first start with Leslie. Leslie, you were diagnosed with breast cancer. I always ask my survivors this is, who was Leslie before breast cancer? Because we all know we changed dramatically, some of us more dramatically than others, but who was Leslie?
So, really, just kind of a regular person. I mean, I kind of did the typical things. I went to college, I got married, I had kids, we moved around, I had a bunch of different jobs. Um, and, like, I was also somebody who didn't know much about breast cancer because why would I need to? Because I'm not going to get it, right? Like, I don't need to know about that. That's for other people. And so that's really who I was. I was 55 when I was diagnosed and, semi close to retirement. And I was kind of wondering, well, what am I going to do for the next, 10, 15, 20 years? And I was kind of working on that. And then I got diagnosed. And then I knew what I was going to do from that.
Yeah, your story really resonates with me because, well, I was diagnosed at 54 and I did know a lot about breast cancer, but I didn't realize how many people, like if they have not been diagnosed, they still don't know enough about it and they still wonder, why would I even need to learn about that? Which is one of the reasons I started the podcast in the first place, with the understanding that my audience, I want them to be people who've never been diagnosed. And I had a friend of mine ask me one time, why is your audience people have been never diagnosed? It's not even on their radar. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. It needs to be on their radar. So I am really pushing for as many people as possible to listen to the stories that I have on here, especially stories like yours. So thank you for saying that. What was your diagnosis? When were you diagnosed? What were your treatments like? Surgery? Any of that? Tell us all the things.
So I have a little bit of a unique run of it, really. And I will just say, all the people that I know who've been diagnosed with stage 4, especially breast cancer, I've had it the easiest of anybody that I have known. And so when I go out and I speak, I tell people that because I'm like, don't look at me and think that this is how stage 4 cancer goes 8 years past diagnosis, because we know what the majority of people are not doing at 8 years after diagnosis of stage 4 breast cancer. They're not alive. And so it was all very from an incidental finding. So I was doing my 55-year-old stuff and I just, got the mammogram. They said, we want you to come back for the ultrasound. Then they called me from the ultrasound and said all clear. But then I was doing other stuff too, right? And one of the things that, blood tests and all the things that you do yearly. And my doctor said, well, why don't we get you a DEXA scan? That's just a scan to see what your bone density is, because as postmenopausal women, particularly, we can lose bone mass. So if you don't know where you were at 55, you don't know if you're losing or not if you check it later. So you have to it's just a baseline. So I did that, no problem. And the radiologist that read that report called my doctor and said, bad news in there. Bone density is fine, but there's a lot of stuff that should in those bones that should not be in those bones. You got to figure out what it is. So since I just had the all clear mammogram and ultrasound, nobody thought about breast cancer. So I got an x-ray and a CT scan and 2 tests for multiple myeloma because it looked like bone cancer, which is what multiple myeloma is. None of that came back positive. So then we did a bone biopsy, and lo and behold, it was metastatic breast cancer.
Oh boy.
Yes. And it was not seen on either type of imaging. I went to the Mayo Clinic for a second opinion, and I got a PET CT scan there. And what did we see? But all the stuff in all the bones and a great big tumor in my left breast.
Wow. That you didn't feel?
Nope.
Wow.
No, because it's lobular.
Okay.
Lobular doesn't form a lump.
Okay.
It's more of like a thickening or an area, but all along, when I would get physical breast exams, nothing.
Okay.
But the doctor at Mayo Clinic, he felt it. He's like, oh, yeah, it's right there. And he took his marker out, put an X.
Yeah.
right
So,
there that they knew right away.
interestingly, I had just found out what lobular breast cancer is, and when we were at the symposium, I didn't even
Yeah.
know what it was. And my friend Claudia, that I was with, who you guys met as well, that was her type of breast cancer, and so she educated me what she knows, and then she was invited to a doctor's house nearby where the symposium was, right there on the river, who gathered a bunch of other patients who had lobular breast cancer. And I was able to go along and meet
Oh,
all
wow.
these people. So
Mhm.
a whole new world that I didn't even know. And so I'm so glad that you brought that up, because this is something that I think may not get enough attention.
No, it doesn't. It's 10 to 15% of the cancers diagnosed. And there is the Lobular Breast Cancer Alliance that does a lot of work around lobular, which is wonderful. Um, and it is very notorious for evading mammograms and ultrasounds. And I think the rate is about 11% of lobular cancers are found on imaging.
That's really
And it's
scary.
yeah, and it's typically diagnosed later stage,
Okay.
like mine. Mhm.
So I'm going to ask you a little bit more about some advice you might have about that a little bit later. But I do want to ask you, what kind of treatment did you end up going through, and surgeries or any of that?
So metastatic, diagnosis right out of the gate. So I was never diagnosed with an earlier stage. It was stage 4 right from the very beginning. And mostly when we do surgery or we do chemo or we do radiation, it's to keep it from spreading to the rest of the body. That's what that's for. We either cut it, burn it, or kill it. Right? That's what those
Right.
things are for.
Right.
And so that had already happened for me. It had already gone to the bones in a pretty serious way. So those things were not necessary in order to keep it from spreading, because it had already spread. So I got on a drug called Ibrance by Pfizer, and it was supposed to last on the average of about 24 months. And it's been over 8 years. And I'm still on my first line of treatment, Ibrance and letrozole, which is an aromatase inhibitor, which basically, straight talk, takes all the estrogen out of your body, because my cancer is estrogen fed.
Okay.
So that's what I've been doing. And, there are some side effects, but not too bad. Not too bad. The white cell count will go down a little too much sometimes, and I'll have to stop for about a week. Then it goes back up. Then I start it up again. That's it.
Okay. So
That's why I
obviously,
say I've had it so easy.
yeah. I mean, well, it's so hard to even wrap your mind around anything that's easy about any breast
Right.
cancer, but that I understand what you're saying. Very fascinating. Well, then, of course, you're like, I need to do something in the breast cancer community, because I need to make sure that I get education out to people, help them understand their breasts and their density. What are you doing in your survivorship? Tell us all the things about My Density Matters, because I know that when I would say probably about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, I found out that I had this thing called, dense breast tissue. And it's like, what does that even mean? And all I knew is that I had to make sure that I got a mammogram and an ultrasound, not just the mammogram. And then ultimately it became, I think, a law that doctors had to make sure that people knew that they had dense breast tissue. And I've had 2 lumpectomies in the past, so that were benign. So those are the only things I really knew about dense breast tissue. And then, of course, I learned a lot more when I had breast cancer. So tell us what you're doing in your survivorship to help the breast cancer community with My Density Matters.
Well, we founded, Susan and I actually were working together on just a little campaign that we're doing on our own. Oddly enough, you'll hear more about this later, called Find Out My Breast Density Day. This was 6 years ago now. This is before My Density Matters was even formed.
Oh.
And I did say back then that I will never form a not-for-profit.
She said it to me.
And here you are.
I said that. So, when they say never say never, never say never. It's true. We had such success with that, though, that we said, okay, we need an organization around this in order to be able to spread this message further, wider, and in different ways. So My Density Matters was formed. We are going to be 5 years old this summer. And our core thing is we empower women to find out their breast density and learn their options and advocate for themselves. Because, number one, a lot of women still don't know about breast density. And number two, they don't know what their options are. And number three, they need to advocate for themselves because this advocacy is not being done for us on our behalf in any kind of systematic way, right? So that's the lane that we are in. There's a lot of other things that we could do, but we don't do those. We stick with what we want to do. And so we have a lot of different ways and different programs that we try to get the message out there about this to women so they can be empowered. And so this is where I think we turn it over to Susan and let her talk about some of those programs, and how we do it and when we do it and all of that.
Love that. Hi, Susan. Let's move on over to you. Why don't you, how did you get involved? How did you and Leslie meet? How did that all happen?
Well, I have known Leslie for quite a long time because I'm mother of four, and let's see, a couple of mine are the same ages as Leslie's.
Right.
So we had known each other through our children's activities, and then in about the beginning of 2020, I had attended, something that Leslie had done at a local shop, and after the pandemic hit, she asked me, "What are you doing?" Because I was working on a project to help the vulnerable learn how to use Zoom and acclimate, empower people with knowledge. And so we started talking about what was I doing and what was she doing. And then she told me a little bit more in depth about her diagnosis and her passion for empowering women. And I'm like, hey, I'm all about empowering people, right? Let's empower people with knowledge for better outcomes. And that's what I was trying to do with the whole Teach One initiative I was doing. So she starts asking me a few questions, well, Susan, do you have dense breasts? I'm like, yes, I have dense breasts. She's like, do you know what it means? I'm like, no, I do not know what it means. She's like, do you get secondary screening? I said, well, sometimes. Like, I don't have breast cancer in my family. So I was going through Mythbusters. It was a Mythbusters occasion on our call. And she quickly informed me that I shouldn't be blowing off those secondary screenings because most breast cancer doesn't have a known family history and doesn't have a known genetic profile. So I was like, oh my gosh, wait a minute. If this is me and this is you, like this is a lot of people.
Mhm.
And I don't need to be a survivor to be passionate about health.
Right.
Because we all have to take care of one another. So I said, well, what do you want to do? Here we got a pandemic, the whole world's shut down. What can we do together? And so then we really honed in on what do that's when she told me, she's like, well, I'm not going to do a nonprofit. And I'm like, okay. Well, from my experience, like if you have no money and you have no people, one way to do it is to develop partnerships and at least get a clear message and then spread that message. So I did what I do best, and I just started plucking people that I knew that could help. Someone to help with marketing, someone to help us hone in on that mission and vision. And we did these sessions together. And then we started contacting other survivors and other organizations. And the next thing I knew, like we had this whole group of people that were passionate, excited about helping. And then that's how we named it, right? Because when you really know what you want to do and you know what your values are that are lifting that up, the name came right to the top.
I love it.
Density matters.
My
And
density
it
matters.
sticks because it does.
Yes. You mentioned something just a couple of minutes ago about how I don't have to be a survivor to be in this space to help educate people. And you are absolutely correct on that. I am so thrilled when I meet someone who is doing this in this space who's never been diagnosed. I'm sure that you have learned obviously so much and so much more than anyone else would that has never had breast cancer, who hasn't really plunged themselves into this space. So if it ever does happen to you, you're a lot more armed than a lot of us were. I definitely felt like I was armed before, but then when I actually got the breast cancer, I realized that there was so much I didn't know, including those myths, some of the myths that out there, like you have to have it in your family to get breast cancer, and I knew that wasn't true, but at the same time I had never had any kind of testing on that, so I just didn't know. And once I became a lemonista, I even learned more about the myths out there. Like, I didn't even know that men could get breast cancer. Who knew? So I appreciate your being in this space, and it sounds like I need a Susan. I actually do have a
Everybody
couple.
needs a Susan.
Yes. I actually have someone who has jumped in and she's really eager to help. And so I'm excited about that. And I can see a good relationship with her moving forward. She's already taking an interest. She's never had breast cancer, but she has introduced me to two people. Well, one person in particular so far, another one she wants to introduce me to, who are friends of hers who have had breast cancer, and one has breast cancer right now. So she's like, she wants to jump into this space to, help people advocate for themselves and get that education out there. So thank you, Susan, for what you do, alongside with Leslie. So tell us about this event that I didn't realize this started 6 years ago, that catapulted you into creating this nonprofit, My Density Matters. Tell us all about that. What's going on? When is it taking place? And yeah, tell us all the things about that.
Well, I'll start a little bit with the inception, right?
Okay.
So it was late 2020. We'd honed into the name, the mission, the vision, and then we were like, oh, we need something. We need something to kick it off. And that's where the person we had on our team, who was a marketing person, and she's like, we need a day. We need to do something. And we all agreed that not in the fall, because that was already flooded. We
Yes.
needed a day away from it because breast cancer is all year. And so we purposely chose February. So we chose February of 2021 to host our first Find Out My Breast Density Day, because we thought it was a good time. It's after the holidays. It's away from Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but it's also a time of Valentine's Day and Galentine's Day, and let's take care of our girls. And it really, it just felt right. So we pulled together a handful of partners. I think we had 25 partners at the time, and we honed in on that first year. What do we want people to do? Find out my breast density. Let's make a day about it. Let's really hone in on the interpersonal message, because there's a lot of doctor talk out there. There's a lot of technical talk. There's a lot of, those old reports that we read, they didn't really say much. And we needed people to understand what it meant in layman's terms. And so we pulled together that first day. And every year we evolve it just a little bit. It's always about breast density, but we've honed the message a little bit. That first year was so successful that after a one-day online only event, we had 750,000 impressions.
Wow.
Mostly on Twitter, because we did a Twitter chat and everybody was engaged. And that's when we looked at each other, and it was a lot of work. But we looked at each other and we said, yeah, this is not sustainable to continue without pulling together a nonprofit, because the message resonated with everyday people. We had to utilize the breast cancer bubble, as we call it, the organizations who are already knowledgeable, but we had to utilize the knowledge of the bubble to get outside the bubble and resonate with everyday people. I'm the demographic. I don't have breast cancer. I had dense breasts. I needed to know what Leslie taught me. I needed to know. But now that I know, I want other people to know,
Right.
right? So let's utilize the knowledge and the expertise in the breast cancer bubble. Let's utilize the partnerships because everyone is doing great work.
So, Susan, what did that look like? What was the call to action? What were you having them do?
It was literally a Twitter chat, and we
Okay.
had doctors and Leslie and doctors, and they were just chatting about the key, the myths, the what do people need to know? Why is their breast density matter? What does it even mean? Like kind of the questions that, the myths that I was talking with Leslie about, like, well, yeah, I've done breasts. I have no idea what it means or why it matters, but I know that they say I should get additional screening. But we needed everyday people to know that. And it's more than facts, right? It's more than just facts. It's like, how do those facts apply to a normal life? And I think we did a pretty good job explaining things in a way that like everyday people could understand. So yeah, Twitter chat, and we had people posting on social media, and it took a topic that wasn't getting enough attention and kind of blew it up in a good
Okay.
way. Um,
And
yeah.
now that it's evolved, what does it look like now? Like what is the one in February? When is it? What is it going to look like?
So this year, our event. We call it an event. It's a day, but it's February 18th, which is a Wednesday. And this year, the focus is on did you know? And we're going to provide resources, but we've went beyond our own topic to bring in partners resources as well. So this year, we're including partners, and it's did you know, and it's going to be resources. We'll focus on the breast density side of the resources, but our partners will bring in other aspects. For instance, some are support organizations. We don't do support, we educate on
Okay.
breast density, but we have partners that once you're diagnosed, ABCD after
Mhm.
breast cancer diagnosis, and they do offer mentoring. Then we have other organizations, like we're partners with Know Your Lemons as well. They will talk about other aspects of the breast that we don't discuss. Let's bring in their resources. We have other groups who are doing legislative work. We're not a legislative
Mhm.
organization, but we partner with organizations that do those kinds of things. So that was the goal this year, is like, did you know? Let's really help people no matter where they are on the journey. Because if you're too young for a mammogram, you might still need to get a risk assessment. 25 years old, let's get that risk assessment. Let's start the conversation with your family, with your doctor. So that's how we really wanted to round it out and provide resources for the journey based on our partners' expertise
I feel
as
like
well.
that I think that that's really why I resonate with you two so much is because when I started mine too, it's like it was so overwhelming to try to find resources for this and then that and then the other thing and all these things. And it's nice to know that there are organizations like yours where you're kind of aiming to be sort of this one stop, hey, here's the education part for this. And if you need this, here is a good resource for this. And you're not looking all over the place and it's not completely overwhelming. So, what I do on my website every time I interview someone, if they have a resource, I have them categorized on my website where, like, maybe they're just looking for some podcasts and books to read. So I have a category, podcasts and books. Or, hey, maybe I'm looking for a really skilled microsurgeon to do a flap surgery and I don't have anyone in my town to do that. So where can I go? I've interviewed quite a few surgeons so they can go to that resource, find out who this person is. I even have questions about what they need to ask surgeons when they are interviewing them for possibly to go to them. So I just love that there are, organizations like yours where it makes it so much better for people to advocate for themselves, find the resources. I love it. I love.
Well, one of our core tenets is collaboration. We feel like we are truly better together. There's no need to compete with anyone because everyone provides their own expertise and their own knowledge. And when you add this one plus this one plus this one, it's better for the patient.
Yes, I
It's
like how
better
you
for the
said that there's
person.
no reason to compete. I've been, I know within the business world, there's a lot of competition out there. With the breast cancer world, I like to collaborate with people who are not in competition. I've only run across one or two um, others where it seems that there's this competition thing, like a popularity type thing. And I kind of steer away from that. I am more of the I want to collaborate, I want to partner, I want to amplify voices, I want to be able to get those resources on my website to be able to connect them to you. So I want to be part of that in February. So we're going to have a link in our show notes so that people can register for that. Do they register? And then is it on Zoom now? What how does that look?
They don't have to register,
Okay.
but like we do have a form that if people want to be, they can register as a supporter, which is really helpful because then we can just immediately send them latest updates and that kind of thing. And we're not doing a Zoom per se, although we are also partnering. One of our partners is Touch, the Black Breast Cancer Alliance, and they are doing The Doctor Is In. We have done that um, recording several years in a row, and they're going to do a live thing a few days beforehand,
Okay.
but we will have that. So we're not actually having an event on the day, but
Okay.
we will be pointing everybody to our website and to our event page, which will contain resources and a link to the Doctor Is In show that was previously recorded.
Wonderful. Okay. Makes total sense. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what it all looks like. Okay. And so we will make sure that we have the website and be able to direct people to that. That's awesome.
And I
This is
will add one more thing. We have
okay.
another partner who's literally going to do a watch party with the link from the Doctor Is In. So, I mean, and
Oh,
that is a possibility as well. Anyone can have their own watch party and utilize any of these resources or
like I could have
registration.
a watch party.
You could. Yes.
I want a watch party. I want to be included. I want to be part of this. I love it. Well, thank you for really laying that out for us and helping us understand what the program is and, how you all became a nonprofit. Thankfully, Susan came along and said, Leslie, we need to start this nonprofit. And you're probably overjoyed with it
Yep.
now.
Yeah, I don't
What's
know about
that?
that, but like she's the one with this is her passion, unbelievable passion. And I think there's something to that that's, you know, her passion is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. You can tell.
And
So
it does
let's,
keep me up at night. So it's not, I
is
mean,
it?
yeah, it's good, but there's a downside to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sleep would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And that's supposed to be healthy.
Supposed to be, if you can get it.
If
Yeah.
you can get it. So Leslie,
Right.
I want to go back to that lobular breast cancer. Because I really want to drive home this importance of understanding what it is and what people can do. It's just still very new to me. So what advice do you have for people who've never been diagnosed, connecting it to what your breast cancer was?
Well, I don't have a great answer for those who may be diagnosed with lobular because often you can't feel it and you can't see it on imaging. And we have no other ways right now.
Yeah.
But what I will say is if you feel like something's off, don't give up until you run it to ground because I have heard this story because lobular will like maybe kind of like one breast might feel heavier than the other, because because it's in there. It's just not a hard ball that is obvious to everyone. So it's that with the breast cancer and knowing your own breasts and taking initiative on that. But I mean, that just translates to everything else too, right? I mean, if you have a pain in your knee that's been there, you should get that looked at too, so it's so the overarching thing with that is just, if you think something's off, it probably is. Right? And don't let anybody tell you, oh, honey, that's not right, or you're just in a bad mood, or, something, the stupid excuses that we get from people.
Mhm.
Don't, don't, don't go there. Don't let them put you off. Run it to ground until you are satisfied. Because a number of people that I've talked to who did that for themselves ultimately wound up getting diagnosed and wouldn't have had they not been their own advocate, and God only knows.
Yeah. It's very disconcerting to know that. How would you know? I mean, it's almost like anything, I'm walking around sometimes with pains in my body, or something like feels off or whatever, and you just don't know what's inside your body. And there are so many people, especially women, they have a hard time, going to the doctor and being dismissed, the medical gaslighting and being
Absolutely.
dismissed.
It's real. It's very real.
Yes.
And we have to guard against that for ourselves and for
Yeah.
others.
I just did a graphic. I just posted something on my Instagram yesterday of this same thing. It's like advocating for yourself, and you are allowed to get second opinions. There are a lot of people who have a hard time saying, yeah, thank you, and I'm going to go get a second opinion without the doctor being offended. Or any normal doctor, any good doctor would be totally okay with people going and getting a second opinion. It just shows that the person is taking a lot more interest in their own body and being able to take care of their own bodies. So but that's one of the things that I said, is that there's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion. Do not let people gaslight you. If you feel something that's off. Or also, a lot of times with the treatments, that it's like, oh, we need to do this right now. And sometimes that's not always the case. So sit down, take a breath, do some research, and then come back and not feel pressured to do something right now. That's what was happening with my breast surgery. So I had to advocate for myself, literally with my doctors and with my own husband. But I
We got to do what we got to do, and
I stood
so
strong.
yeah. And I did hold off on taking the first, pill, if you will, after I was diagnosed here and they prescribed it. I held off and went to the Mayo Clinic because I just had a feeling. I don't know what it was. I just had a feeling that there was more to this than what I was knowing.
Mhm.
Because in the initial diagnosis, they said, oh, breast cancer can be really small and still spread, tiny.
Mhm.
And so that's how that was the reason why they couldn't see it in the imaging. Well, get up to Mayo Clinic and you get a PET CT and it's this big. Then they were able to actually biopsy it and do the work on understanding what the tumor's makeup was. If I had taken the medicine, that ruins that. That ruins the ability
Yeah.
to analyze the tumor.
Okay.
Because it starts to change, because that's what it's supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So
So
I now know more about my tumor because I didn't take the medicine right when they said to start out with.
it's like this divine intervention, some sort of intervention. And women are really good with their intuition. And some
Mm-hmm.
people don't like that.
Right.
We just, some people don't like
Trust your intuition.
that. Trust your intuition. Well, I was just going to ask you, Susan, what piece of advice do you have for people who've never been diagnosed?
Yeah, it's trust your intuition, but also take an active role in your own health. That's why we created the Check Your Chart program. Like, get in there, open up, get into whatever your online portal is and read your stuff. There's other stuff in there. There's blood work. There's other things. Like, get in there and understand your own health. Because if you don't, nobody else is taking care. Like, yes, doctors do a great job. They have a lot of patients. They have very little time.
Very
You
little.
are responsible, right? You are responsible for your own health. And we try to do everything we can. We provide like how to speak with your doctor if if there are certain pushbacks, but also if you really are uncomfortable speaking, then write a note. Write a note in your chart. I would like to ask you about this. My appointment with you is next week. I want to ask you about this.
You
At
know, I
least they're forewarned that they need to answer that question.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that because I know TMI, but this is a TMI podcast. So I've been dealing with a UTI the last few days, and it's my second one in the last month and a half. And I went in just a couple of days ago to urgent care because it just came back, and it came back a little bit different than the first one. But the doctor said we will definitely see something on the culture. So I was totally expecting to see something on the culture. And I was on a medication. I'm on it still. And it came back. Nothing was detected on the culture. And it said, please recollect a sample. And my dad started doing some research, and he used to work at the local health department. He found out that E. coli can run dormant. So I don't know if you guys know a lot about UTIs, but I've gone in and it has like urinary tract infections. Um, I've gone in where they've done a dipstick and a culture and nothing showed up, but I know dang well that something's wrong. I feel it. I know it's there. I've felt them before, and come to find out E. coli can run dormant. And I don't know how many people know that. So I went into Chat GPT and I developed a email to send to this doctor to ask him about that. And I'm waiting for a response. That is, I think, my dad's like, the doctor's going to know that you take your body seriously and that you are doing your research and trying to figure out why nothing is showing up. And this is possibly the reason it's not showing up. So it's just an example of asking the questions, taking that information from your chart and finding out what it means, because it can be really, really complex and, not even know what it means. Find out what it means and ask questions, and don't be afraid to ask those questions. So yeah, anyway, just a little side story there. It just made me think about that, because not everyone would do that, with that kind of conviction.
That is collaborating with your medical team. That
Yeah.
is collaborating with your doctor, and that's what we sought to do and check your chart. We wanted women to go in, read their mammogram report. You need to have a mammogram to understand your breast density.
Yeah.
How do you read your mammogram report? Oh, because the letter that comes home to you, that's not your mammogram report. That's just a letter. You have to go into your chart, find your mammogram report, and read what it says. And if you don't understand, we help you understand what the terminology means.
I love that.
Because first off, know your density.
Mm-hmm.
Learn your screening options. Mm-hmm. Have the conversation with your doctor. It is not confrontational. This is collaborative. This is how you become a good partner in your own health.
Well, and I feel like we can go so far as to say that your intuition is also your healthcare partner. I actually put that on my graphic, yes, the other day. It says your intuition is part of your healthcare team, right? Yeah. So, well, ladies, I am so excited that we got to get together and talk about My Density Matters and this, go to the website. We will have the website in the show notes. It's going to be on February 18th. And I am definitely going to be checking that out and sharing all that information too of My Density Matters, at least on my website. Is there anything that you would like to say, Leslie, before we wrap up today?
Just thank you for having us, because as we discussed, our whole goal in life is to get the word out to women everywhere. And so by having us on your podcast, you're helping us do that. So thank you so much.
Good. It's a good partnership. Yeah. How about you, absolutely. Susan?
Thank you as well. I mean, we're just going to keep, we'll keep learning every day. And we're thankful for the partners that want to learn with us and support one another.
Are you going to do a Instagram live at all to talk about February 18th? Are you planning on any of that?
Probably not, but if somebody else wanted to have us on live, we'd go.
I was thinking I could do that on my Instagram. I think it would be really fun, and I can advertise for it. I can think of, or if you guys want to send me something where I can post it and then we can do a live, that would be fantastic. You pick the day. Give me a couple of dates and let's pick a day and a good time where people, are online, and let's do it. I'm totally game for that.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Susan, for being on this episode. I really appreciate it. You two are doing amazing work, and I know our breast cancer community really, truly appreciates it. And to my audience, please do not forget to go check out the show notes, and we will see you on the next episode of Test Those Breasts. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Friends, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Test Those Breasts. I hope you got some great, much needed information that will help you with your journey. As always, I am open to guests to add value to my show, and I'm also open to being a guest on other podcasts where I can add value. So please reach out if you'd like to collaborate. My contact information is in the show notes. And as a reminder, rating, reviewing, and sharing this podcast will truly help build a bigger audience all over the world. I thank you for your efforts. I look forward to sharing my next episode of Test Those Breasts.